Happy Tuesday and welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show. I'm Anthony Totri, joined for the second day in a row now, Shawn DePaz.
Yeah, I am.
Shawn, you're making money moves out here, man. You're just hopping from show to show. Straight from PHNX D-backs over here, man.
If you want to call that money move. Straight. I mean, I went straight from producing Coyotes to bets to D-backs to this, really. Got a chance to drink a Factor smoothie in between, though, which is nice.
I've got some in my fridge. I cannot wait to get my hands on.
Yeah, I didn't really look closely. You informed me this morning that some of the flavors, we got more flavors than I realized. I thought they just sent us 2 flavors. They sent us a few. Strawberry banana is my favorite, though. I mean, no free ads. I don't know. Do we have a Factor ad at all today?
No, we don't. No,
well,
this is
free ad for Factor.
This is just love for Factor.
Nice little smoothie for lunch. I'm chilling. You know, it's a good day.
They're so good. Any day's a good day when you got smoothies,
dude.
And you got college football to discuss.
Factual.
That's just. And guess what? I want to say we're about 37 days away now from Arizona State football.
Oh yeah, baby.
God damn, I'm so excited. I feel like it's been forever since we've actually been able to like watch ASU football. And I know we've got a bunch to get into just in terms of like the takeaways from Media Day. But dude, like while we're on the topic of again being 37 days away from college football, like it's almost fucking here. Like it feels like
it'll be here before you know it.
It feels like yesterday they finished the U of A game and me and Shane were driving back and we're like, okay, like now what? Like something's got to happen, right? And then Kenny gets hired and it feels like a whirlwind of a last 6, 7, 8 months. And now, like I said, 37 days away, man. Like it's just so damn exciting.
No, yeah. I mean, I always get excited about football season, right? Like I was excited last year, but obviously there's so much more to be excited about this year. There's a reason to think that the team might actually be like semi-competent, which is not a shot at the players from last year in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, it is a shot at the coaches. So like, and even if they're not that good, at the very least, I think there's going to be things to be excited about. Like there's going to be like Jalen is going to be one of the best tight ends in the country. There's offensive weapons for days. We've talked about Rowe and JC on the defensive side, like, but particularly offensively, there's so much reason to be excited about this team. Outside of it just being football coming back, which is good because I feel like it's been a little bit for there to be like a real reason to be excited about ASU football. So obviously to have a guy like Kenny as your head coach, it's hard not to be excited about his first season as head coach.
Yeah, and I think part of it, right, is they just seem closer together.
Yeah,
and I know they've said it
different, man.
They've said it at times before in like years past, and let's be real, you talk to really any team, they're going to tell you they're close, they're going to tell you whatever, but that's not necessarily like the truth, right? You can see these players outside of the workouts, outside of team meetings, outside of the facilities, going and doing things together as a group, right? Whether that be going golfing together or just hanging out playing video games.
And that was
together.
something that Kenny talked about at Pac-12 Media Day, was about how important that is to him, and especially when it comes to building a culture. Like, I mean, I feel like obviously it's a very different circumstance, but like we talk about building a culture here at PHNX all the time, and like if there's not like a real sense of like you actually care about the people you're around. Like you guys are actually my friends. You're not just coworkers. And like it's way easier to build a culture when there's a genuine connection between the people that are supposed to be a part of that culture. And I think you're seeing that with them. Like we see it all the time. We see it with Jalen all the time. Like Jalen's in here every week with somebody different on the team that he has some kind of relationship with. And I mean, from freshmen to offensive guys, defensive guys, like coaches, like you see Kenny. How many head coaches are in the YouTube chat of their tight ends podcast? Like it's always filled with different players commenting on the podcast. Like there's clearly a connection here, and I feel like it's obviously super important. That's the kind of thing that gets teams, and I feel like I talked about this a lot yesterday, that gets teams to play beyond what their talent is. And on the offensive side of the ball, there is a lot of talent. So if they can play beyond that, oh boy.
Yeah, watch out.
Talk about it being exciting. It's going to be dangerous.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot of fun. I do want to hone in on the media day a little bit today. The defensive players went yesterday. We talked a lot about that. Today was all offense. So we got the chance to hear from all of the quarterbacks. We got to hear from Elijhah Badger, Jalen Conyers, obviously, Gio Sanders. Like, there's just a lot to get into.
There's so much talent on this defense, man.
Dude, it's just you start naming players and you're just like, oh, wait, I forgot about him, right? Oh, Melquan Stovall, Gio Sanders, Jordan Tyson, who's not even there yet. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much potential talent. And I think there are guys that are returning from last season that I don't want to say they've been pushed down the depth chart, but they're guys that you're not necessarily talking about because they didn't necessarily perform at a ridiculous level last season. And now there's other guys on the roster, but you look at a guy like Messiah Swinson, who we're going to hear from a little bit later on in the show, who I think is going to have a phenomenal season, not only because of what Kenny's offense is, but getting the chance to talk to him a little bit today. And you hear his aspirations to play in the NFL, and he made the decision of like, okay, he really had to sit there and be like, okay, am I declaring? Am I entering the portal? Am I coming back to ASU? And he came back to ASU for a reason. But before we hear from any of the players, I want to tell you guys just a little bit about OGs, guys. It's getting hot. If you didn't already know, okay? We're not looking forward to all this ridiculous heat, but we are looking forward to what OGs is cooking up, and what they're cooking up is the best scratch-made gummies in the Valley, whether that be their new pink lemonade gummies, which I highly encourage you to get a hold of because they are limited edition. Maybe check out the Aquaberry Sleep Edition gummies if you have a tough time sleeping, or if you're like me and you just kind of want to stick your hand in the cookie jar and see whatever comes out. They got all sorts of stuff: watermelon, red apple, peach,
bags, man.
Orange creamsicle. They really do have it all, guys. OGs doesn't miss when it comes to flavor and effects, so get your pink lemonade gummies while you can. Check out OGs online at ogsbrands.com and on Instagram at ogsbrands. You can also find their products at your local dispo. You do got to be 21 years or older to purchase.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the summer. Listen, so if you're not from here, like obviously, or if you're from here, if you've been here your whole life, you know that the sun is different. But if you're not from here and you come out here, like you really have an appreciation for how this sun.
Oh yeah,
it comes at you, man. Like it is. There's something different about the Arizona sun. And I mean, to be honest, it can be dangerous. You're trying to drive around and stuff. You got the set in your eyes. That's a recipe for disaster. Thankfully, do we have the company for you? It's our friend over at Shady Rays. Listen, they am I looking at the wrong thing? I'm definitely looking at the wrong thing. Do we have a Shady Rays, Reed?
Just keep going. Just keep going. The answer is no, but just keep going.
Well, shout out Shady Rays. Well, now I've thrown myself off.
It's all good. You know what goes great with the heat? It's a nice ice cold beer from
Why did you
Peaks.
stop me?
Make sure you wear your Shady Rays too, because it's sunny out there.
Yeah,
how about that?
There you go.
You
Some Shady Rays, some Four Peaks, OGs.
Set me up for failure.
I didn't set you up
well,
for
you
failure.
didn't set me up for failure, but
just didn't.
You had an opportunity to
It's
stop
like I
me
was in
from
the
failing.
passenger seat of you driving, and I was watching you run a red light, and I didn't say anything about it.
Ultimately on the blame, but you could have prevented it.
Four Peaks, guys. Get it in your system because it is refreshing, and all of their flavors are bomb. Still on the wow. The peach ale is always good. A little bit of hazy in there. Plus, like I said, it's hot. A beer goes great with a hot day. And guess what? Today's Tuesday, so it's a Teacher Tuesday. They're back over at 8th Street Pub every Tuesday through July. Bring a valid teacher ID and receive $4 pints of Kilt Lifter, Wow, Hazy, and Hop Knot, guys. Check out at Four Peaks Brew or at Four Peaks Pub to keep up with the latest at Arizona's hometown brew. You do got to be 21 or older to drink Four Peaks. Please drink responsibly. All right. Quarterbacks. That's what everybody wants to talk about at all times. And if you didn't know, Shawn, there's a quarterback competition going on
now?
in Tempe.
Do we have a starter yet?
No, we still don't have a starter yet. Do we have a starter now? No, yeah, there you go. Trenton Bourguet, Drew Pyne, Jaden Rashada. That seems to be the three-headed monster that Kenny Dillingham has to choose between. He talked a little bit at Pac-12 Media Day just about what each of these quarterbacks really brings to the table, right? He really likes Drew Pyne's quick release, obviously his experience over at Notre Dame. Jaden Rashada, obviously, this is a kid still learning, developing, but has an absolute unit of an arm, which I think we saw at times in the spring. And then Trenton Bourguet, he's just a masterclass when it comes to football IQ. So yeah. It's going to be a heated competition, I think. And I think all eyes in reality are going to be on Jaden Rashada, right? Because Arizona State hasn't had a guy in the building like Jaden Rashada really since Jaden Daniels first got here.
Yeah.
And he was asked a little bit about the quarterback competition today. And I'm going to be honest, I wasn't expecting the answer that he gave. So this is what Jaden Rashada had to say when he was asked about the quarterback competition.
It's out of everybody's hands, so just going and, you versus you every day, going and competing, and most importantly, learning and developing is what's most important to me right now. So, whatever happens. And, I'm going to be the best teammate, and my number's called, I'll go and give everything I got.
I feel so bad for this kid, dude. Like, he is so, I feel he got so screwed over with this Florida stuff. And I feel like he just got such a bad reputation. He's clearly just like a good kid.
Yeah.
You put $13 million in front of anybody's face, they're going to fucking jump at it. Like, what are we talking about? So,
I love y'all, but you give me $13 million.
Fuck you, Anthony Totri. Fuck you, Leah Merrill.
13 million reasons why.
$13 million, you could all go fuck yourselves. I'm out of here.
Sorry.
No shot. Anyways, but he's clearly just a good kid. Like, that's the right answer. He's going to compete, and he's going to learn, and he's going to do whatever is asked of him.
And I think for me, the thing that really stuck out is when you're asked about a quarterback competition, and you're obviously the youngest guy out of the three. Both these other guys have gone through quarterback competitions. They've lost quarterback competitions. And then you look at a guy that has all this pressure, has all the eyes, and his immediate response is, first and foremost, it's out of my hands.
Yeah.
And second of all, I'm focused on learning and developing. In this era of college football, to have a former 5-star quarterback at the high school level that is in year one with a brand new head coach, two guys, Andrew Pyne and Trenton Bourguet, that are certainly going to give him a run for his money. And he's sitting here being like, you know what? It's not really, it's out of my hands. I'm here to learn. I'm here to develop. Like, he understands, I feel like, that he is the building block for the future. So I think that is it really is a well thought out answer from him.
And I mean, in today's day and age, obviously you can't guarantee anything, and things change rather quickly. But like, that is, at least to me, sounds like the sentiment of a guy who plans on being here for a while.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't really feel the rush of being like, if I'm not starting here, like, I'm not going to be at ASU next year. And obviously, again, like, he is he's a smart kid. He knows what like the right answers are. So you can only read into it so much, but at the end of the day, like, he is given the right answers. He's, especially with, because like the casual fan probably does not know a whole lot about Jaden Rashada. They see a kid who is probably just like, oh, he's another one of these kids that all he cares about is the money, and so there's that part of it, and there's the part of it like, he was a 5-star. Of course, he's going to come here and start and be the best quarterback in the conference. Like, and neither of those two things are accurate or realistic. And I think the most important thing is Jaden Rashada clearly seems to understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at, you bring up the Florida thing, right? And that is something that I think is going to stick with Jaden Rashada for a while in his collegiate career and professional career. Why? Because guess what? It was like the first major NIL fumble. I'm going to go ahead and say that, just because of how much money was involved.
At that scale, for sure.
Right? So he was asked about just like Arizona State today, and he was like, I came here because like growing up, this is where I saw myself being at, right? Yeah. And there's going to be people that hear that and they're like, guy's full of shit. Like, he committed to Florida. Again, back to what we were saying. If somebody hands you $13 million,
exactly,
I don't care if you're taking me to fucking Candyland. Like, I'm taking the $13 million.
A lot less to somebody Candyland. Like, vibe.
You're absolutely choosing $13 million over like a place that you like grew up wanting to go. Why? Because $13 million is life-changing money.
Yeah. And I mean, like, there's a lot of, like, saying that this is somewhere he wanted to go growing up is not like, sure, it could just be like, lip service, whatever, but
you're
like,
right, it could be.
But it also, like, there's real reason to believe it's not. Like, it's not just anybody saying that this is a school he wanted to go to. He obviously had a connection to the school growing up. It's very realistic that he saw himself being a Sun Devil as a kid. And so that's also a nice thing to have. Like, and also, like, everyone wants to look at this kid as a kid who's just after the money. Well, at this point, he's also a kid who's been burned by money. Yeah. He's probably a lot less hesitant to just follow money blindly. Not that he necessarily was doing that when he went to Florida, but like, if someone's promised him $13 million, he's probably not just being like, oh, of course that's going to happen. Like, he knows better now. And so he's probably much more in a position where he's like, sure, there might be all of this opportunity to go get money, but none of that's guaranteed. I have to put myself and my happiness first. And hopefully that happiness is here at Arizona State. And I think that's great. You have a quarterback with a chip on his shoulder and a quarterback that, if he wasn't before, which I'm not saying he wasn't, but if he wasn't before, he now seems to be motivated by the right things.
Yeah.
And that is a quarterback with a chip on his shoulder that has talent and has the right motivations is that is a recipe for a kid who, if he's committed to this program like he seems to be, if it's not this year, next year, the year after that, watch out, because he is going to be one hell of a quarterback and one hell of a leader and a Sun Devil, which, that's one thing, like, you want it everywhere. Kyle Sully was great, but if your quarterback is your Mr. Sun Devil too, oh boy, there's a different kind of buy-in then.
Oh, absolutely. It's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem for
That's
everybody.
That's how you build programs, man.
Oh, yeah. When your quarterback is the heartbeat of everything that you do.
Think about one of the college football moments that has given me the most chills in the last few years was Joe Burrow running out of the tunnel with the EAUX spelling of Burrow on senior night. Like he was Baton Rouge. He was a LSU Tiger, right? And so and obviously it's awesome when anybody is like that, when a skill position player or a cornerback or something like that. But when it's your quarterback, man, like there's a different buy-in from the team. There's a different buy-in from the fan base.
Yeah, there is.
There's a different buy-in from the boosters. Like it changes things. And Jaden Rashada, obviously, again, things change so much, and I'm not trying to get too far ahead of myself. But at this point, he seems like he has his head on straight, and he has the potential to be that kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know Jaden Rashada is just really a third of this quarterback competition.
Yeah.
Drew Pyne being another third, and we heard from him today. This is a kid, obviously coming from Notre Dame. He's been in the thick of quarterback competitions in the past, right? With Jack Cohn, Ian Book, Tyler Buckner. And for him, he never won any one of those quarterback competitions, right? The one with Ian Book wasn't really a competition. Book had been there a while, the winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history. And then you move on to Jack Cohn, transferring over from Wisconsin. And Pyne was the guy that was there already and having to fight off a transfer, right? So when he was at Notre Dame in that real second year that I covered the team, he was the Trenton Bourguet. He was the guy that stuck it out behind somebody that had been there for a while, and then he was looking to get his opportunity. Tyler Buckner was pretty much the Jaden Rashada. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Drew Pyne lost that competition to Jack Cohn, ended up playing in a couple games because of injury, did some amazing things, and then you have the quarterback competition with Tyler Buckner that he lost. Buckner obviously going down last season. Pyne stepping in, having a real solid season for the Irish. So he's not a rookie when it comes to quarterback competition. Yeah. So I got the chance to ask him just what he learned from each one of those quarterback competitions, and this is what he had to say.
As I've grown throughout college, like I said, someone asked me about around a competition, you try to press a little bit, make plays, go out of your comfort zone, and sometimes that causes a lot of errors. But I think I've learned in what I did last year in camp and this year in camp is I'm just going to go out there and do my thing. If Trenton or Jaden or anyone's going and throwing bombs and scoring touchdowns all day, it's not going to make me say, hey, I'm going to go chuck one up. I got to stay within the system. I got to stay within the offense and make the right decisions every single play. And, we'll take those shots. I love throwing the ball deep. I absolutely love it. And we have great guys who can do it, not only at receiver, but at tight end. So, but I think as far as the competition goes, you just got to control what you can and just, be able to go out there every day and give it your best.
I like the answer, just simply being able to control what you can control.
Yeah. I mean, that is clearly that's the one thing that Jaden Rashada does not have going for him, I guess, is just he's never been in this situation before. And it's very easy, just like as a human being, you're in a group like this in any kind of competition, you see someone showing out, you press, you try and do more, you go outside of yourself a little bit and try and do what they're doing as opposed to do what you can do, right? And obviously that's not, obviously having that competition to push you is good, but if it's pushing you outside of who you are, right? If I don't know, it's hard for me to come up with an example off the top of my head, but if Ryan Tannehill was backing up Lamar Jackson, he's not trying to play quarterback like Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
he will lose that fight every time. The best chance you have is being the best you. And Drew clearly understands that, and that's super important because hopefully, if anything, that example, that level-headedness is something that Jaden is also able to kind of glean off of, and it makes everybody better.
Yeah, not only that, but something that I feel like that doesn't get talked about enough when you have a quarterback competition like this, right, is it is a little bit more of a challenge or a little bit more of a waiting game to build some of that synergy and that chemistry that you'd like to have in an offense. Now, again, I don't expect this to be a quarterback competition that lasts through the entirety of fall camp, and I think Kenny would tell you that he would love to get this wrapped up as soon as possible. But when you have a quarterback with the opposite mindset of Drew Pyne, right, where let's say Trenton has just a phenomenal drive, phenomenal series in practice, and then you've got another guy that steps up as the 2, and he is trying to do everything possible to push the offense to places that hurt it as opposed to help it, right? So not only is he doing himself a disservice, but you're doing a disservice to the other 10 guys that you have on offense
100%.
In terms of trying to get the best rep possible, and I think Drew Pyne understands that. As in, just because I may have a, not necessarily a worse drive, but the opportunities in this specific series in practice don't really ask for me to throw a deep post to Elijhah Badger or to take a giant shot, doesn't necessarily mean that this isn't making me a better quarterback and helping the offense.
And I mean, we've talked about like what makes him special too before compared to the other quarterbacks is athleticism. So there's going to be opportunities for him to use that in ways the other quarterbacks shouldn't.
Absolutely.
Right? Like there's going to be certain times where it makes sense for him to use his legs in a way that it wouldn't make sense for Trenton to use his legs. And not that Trenton can't, right? Like I think we saw at times last year that if he needs to, he's willing to mix it. Like he's willing to get hit. He's a tough guy. If he needs to go and move a little bit, he will. But he's obviously, like I said, Drew was a different kind of athlete than the other quarterbacks. So, I mean, it goes both ways for sure. But again, understanding that you got to be you is so crucial because, like you said, it not only does it do him a disservice, it also puts the guys that are on whatever second team or whatever that he's running with at the time, like it puts them at a disservice. And we talk about how deep this receiving core is and kind of who that number 3 is going to be. If they're not getting good reps with whoever the second quarterback is, if that's whether that's Drew or somebody else, then that
just hurt yourself.
It puts everybody at a disservice. It puts the offense at a disservice, defense at a disservice, fans at a disservice, him at a disservice, coaches. So playing within yourself and just like you said, or he said, controlling what you can control is the most every single player can do to put this team in a position to succeed. Absolutely.
And part of what helped Drew Pyne succeed last season at Notre Dame was the fact that he had one of the nation's best tight ends in Michael Mayer, a guy who through the entire draft process felt was the best tight end, and he got drafted third out of tight ends, which is just absolutely ridiculous.
Dalton Kincaid, stand up.
Stop it. Michael Mayer was an absolute freak at Notre Dame.
Absolutely. He just wasn't Dalton Kincaid.
He was one of the nation's best tight ends. And guess what? Drew Pyne gets the luxury of playing with not only a Messiah Swinson, not only a Bryce Pierre, but guess what? The one and only America's corn and America's tight end.
The birthday boy.
Jalen Conyers. So again, is there any similarities between Michael Mayer and Jalen Conyers? This is what Drew Pyne had to say.
No doubt. I think they play a little different and stuff, but I mean, they're just both what they are. They're game changers. I mean, they're guys who can get the ball in their hands and just absolutely change the whole entire pace of the game and direction of the game. So the guys that usually if they're one-on-one, they're open, and if they're double covered, they might be open. So these two, I'm so grateful to have such great tight ends in my college career, and
game changers, man.
Yeah, if they're single covered, they're open. If they're double covered, they might be open. We saw that we've seen that with Jalen a bunch. There's no such thing as a. Jalen's always open. He's always available.
Yeah.
It is the guy that knows how to use a tight end, particularly in a program that recently has not shown that they know how to use tight ends.
He literally, Drew's coming from tight end U to a place that's had a bunch of great tight ends they never used.
Yeah, tight end useless. That's what it's been like here because they've been good. They just haven't been used.
Yeah.
So obviously it is good, and then that's the one good thing. Getting back to we don't necessarily know where he's going to be on the depth chart, who he's going to be running with, but there's 3 tight ends that are going to give him he's going to have a chance to use. There's 3 tight ends that are super talented, so regardless of who's out there with him, he's going to have an opportunity to kind of show what he can do with that kind of connection. And I think that's exciting. The tight ends, I mean, Jalen's the best player on this team. I think. And so if Drew is the quarterback and he gives them he puts Jalen in he puts this team in a position to maximize Jalen's potential, I think that's the team's best chance of winning. And so that is a really exciting thing to know, that if he does end up being the starter, he is in a position where he's going to be able to really let Jalen shine.
Yeah. Look, I mean, just to have a guy that played with Michael Mayer, who again was a second-round pick in the NFL draft a month ago, 2 months ago, and many thought he was set to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. To have that player comparison, I think, is not only huge for Jalen, but for fans too, to realize, right? Like, we are around ASU, we talk about ASU, we tell you how good he is, but here's a guy that played at Notre Dame and had several tight ends come through there that all went on to play in the NFL. Cole Kmet, another one for the Chicago Bears. And for him to be like, you know what, Jalen Conyers, he is that guy. He quite literally is that guy. I think one thing that when people talk about Jalen Conyers that they'd like to see this season is growth in terms of the run game. And we talked a little bit off camera, him and I, today about that. And, we've joked with him in the past at Pac-12 Media Day about just run blocking in general. Yeah. And that's the thing that Michael Mayer really did a phenomenal job of. You look at Notre Dame's offense in years past, and it was the run game mixed with the pass game. For ASU, it's always been just like run it. If Jalen can elevate that part of his game, then he certainly has the talent and the potential to be a first-round pick.
And it's not
NFL.
like there's like Messiah can run block, so it's not like there's not. But obviously, Jalen becomes a lot more dangerous. He's able to do both of those things.
Absolutely.
We talked about it from a defense perspective, but just throwing different looks at defenses and confusing them and making it a lot less obvious where you're going to go, because last year, a lot of the times, it felt really obvious as to where they were going to go and what they were going to do. Again, gives this team an even... that's the theme for all of this, just giving this team a chance to succeed. And they weren't given that a whole lot last year. They were kind of shooting themselves in the foot, or members of the coaching staff were shooting the team in the foot. Hopefully that's not the case this year, and I don't think it will be.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we've got some more sound from Arizona State's Offensive Media Day that I do want to get to, but before we do that, guys, I want to tell you about our friends over at Burrito Express. They hooked us up earlier this week.
Yes, they did.
As they do every
There's still some in the fridge?
Man, there is. There is. Had another Machaca Hot back-to-back days. I even had a BSB in my hand and a Machaca Hot, and I looked at them both. And I put the BSB down. And I went Machaca Hot.
I might go back. I might go back home and get a Burrito Express, or go home, as in go to the one that started it all. And have a Burrito Supreme after the show.
Look, guys.
Breakfast Supreme, excuse me.
Check them out. They got locations all over the valley. They've got some NIL deals, both with Elijhah Badger and Jalen Conyers. So anytime you check out Burrito Express and you get a burrito from them, you're supporting Arizona State athletes as well. Grab a burrito and follow Burrito Express on social over at Burrito EXP.
And if you're sitting there and your wallet's empty and you're like, I don't have any money for Burrito Express. First off, they're affordable, so you don't need all that much, but you can go make yourself some money on BetMGM Sportsbook app. Because
they give you money.
Yeah, they just be handing out money sometimes. And if you don't believe me, all you got to do is go play their free-to-play Swing for the Fences game, and you might just get some free money. All you do is you pick out an area or the strike zone that they give you. You'll get a single, double, triple, or home run, or pop out, and receive a prize depending on the type of hit that you get. You're going to have to use it on MLB, and you're going to have to use it within 24 hours, so make sure you're on top of that. But if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live, but for our Arizona audience, place your first bet offer and receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if it loses with BetMGM. Again, make sure you use bonus code PHNX. Check out the show notes for full details, and now listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-522-4700 Nevada. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., Kansas, Nevada, New York, or Ontario.
Yeah, well, in the chat, Burrito EXP coming out with Badger and Conyers stickers. Yeah, those stickers go crazy.
Yeah, they do.
The one that Jalen has on his phone is real cool. Before we get into the rest of the sound, just want to update you guys on some number changes we got for ASU and some numbers for some transfers. This is my favorite. Jordan Tyson is going to be wearing number 0 this season.
Love that.
You remember who wore number 0 last year? Unless I'm tripping. I think it was Charles Hall.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
Charles Hall. Roman Rashada, Jaden's brother, is going to be wearing number 25. And linebacker Juju Mitchell is going to be wearing number 48. Some changes for some ASU vets or guys that came in a little bit earlier. Gio Sanders moving from number 20 to number 6.
Okay.
Melquan Stovall going from number 22 to number 7.
Like it.
Sean Charles going from number 81 to number 20.
What was Javen's number?
Jaden Rashada? Javen's number was 8, I believe.
Did he switch it?
No. I believe he's still 8.
Who just switched to 8? Did you say someone switched to 8?
Nobody switched to 8.
Oh, you said
Melquan switched 7.
And someone was
Sean Charles went from 81 to 20. Gio went from 20 to 6. And George Hart going from 39 to a phenomenal running back, number 21.
Ooh, you don't know about George Hart.
You don't know about
21 is great. Willis McGahee.
LaDainian Tomlinson.
Great running back number.
It's the best running back number.
31's my favorite. 44 is the best running back number.
34?
44.
44. Ahmad Bradshaw?
Johnny Davis, Lloyd Little, and Jim Brown.
Okay. Those are some solid ones. I'll let you have that. Shawn, did you know that there's a bunch of transfers on the Arizona State football roster?
I did know that.
Like a lot.
Yes.
Like more than normal?
Yes.
And you know how we're talking about it all the damn time and how national media talks about it as like a bad thing of like they got transfers, so they're not going to have a bunch of chemistry. You got a bunch of like, it's a melting pot of players. They're not going to have time to really sing together.
Of course.
That's not necessarily the case.
I would agree.
ASU, the center that I got to talk to today, phenomenal name, by the way, Leif. That's his first name, is Leif Fautanu. I got the chance to ask him today just in terms of the transfers, and he thinks that it's going to help this team, gives him a little bit of an advantage. This is what Leif had to say today.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that with as much people as we brought in through the portal, a lot of them have their own experience and their own thought processes and the way they see the game, because not everybody was coached the same. So I might take a little bit of information from their game and add it to my game and give some of the tips, some of them my tips that I've learned, you know. So I think if we continue to help each other get better, I think we'll be very good as an offensive line. So.
Yeah, who knew? Who knew having a bunch of different experiences and thought process maybe helps a team.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I understand the argument that it's not good, but when you're talking about a program that just was abysmal, or was last year, and everyone complained about the culture seemed messed up and all this stuff. Like, everything was bad last year. So why are you complaining about there being new blood? Like, not that people necessarily are, but like you said, it's kind of a narrative that when you get all these transfers, it's not a good thing. I think it was the best thing for this program. Like, you needed new blood. You needed people who weren't necessarily kind of disillusioned as to what it meant to be a Sun Devil and all of that kind of stuff. Like, you just needed a new kind of shot of energy, and I think all these transfers provide that. So I agree. I think it definitely, as far as this particular program and the school is concerned, it is definitely a positive.
And for this position group on the offensive line, right? Which I feel like it's something we talked about a little bit last year because it felt like a lot of plug and play guys, at least in terms of transfers on that offensive line. And it didn't necessarily work out simply because you got some injuries. You did have some chemistry issues up there. Obviously, some guys no longer with Arizona State. But now you get to kind of have a fresh start. You obviously still have pieces from that offensive line, and you do have a bunch of guys that have played in the Power 5 in terms of offensive linemen. And I think it is going to benefit them. It's something that Bobby Hurley talked about with ASU basketball, of where he gets guys, and the first thing that he does is he asks them about their experience that they had, right? Because he gets to learn a little bit more as a coach. How's LSU doing this? How's Nevada 100%. Doing this? How's Texas Tech doing this? And now you see it on the football field, and you got an offensive line kind of built around a bunch of different players, and you get to be like, okay, how does this team do it? How does this team do it? How did you do it over at Cal? How did you do it over at Washington State? And eventually, what you get is you get the best possible like experience in the best possible situation because you have a bunch of different players that really have tried it all. So I'm excited to see what the offensive line.
It's almost like diversity is a good thing.
Who would have
thought?
Yeah, crazy, right? All right, the last soundbite for you is one of my personal favorites, and it's from Messiah Swinson. Got the chance to sit down with him today, and what we've heard about Kenny Dillingham's first meeting, right, where he kicked his shoes off, where he ripped his pants, and he was just Kenny Dillingham, right? That's who he is. That's what he is. He's just himself. And so we know that Kenny had the chance to talk with all the players one-on-one, too, right? To try and retain them, to try and get them to commit back to Arizona State. So Messiah Swinson just pretty much gave me the story on his entire first conversation with Kenny Dillingham, and it's phenomenal. So this is the story from Messiah Swinson.
So after the last game, we played at Arizona, right? University of Arizona last game. We drove back up here. Oh my God, he's gonna be really good. We drove back up to Tempe, and I ended up going home that night of the game, and just kind of weighed the whole decision of if I wanted to come back to school, if I wanted to stay, if I wanted to leave, if I wanted to play for the draft. Just kind of that whole process. It was either declare or come back to Arizona State. Those were my only two options. But I think Kenny got hired the day after, 2 days after the season, or the day after the season ended. And I think that Monday, we had a conversation. He called me, FaceTimed me, and reached out to me. It was just like, listen, I've never had a tight end room like that you guys have right now. It's filled with a lot of talent, and I feel like I can do a lot of different things with you guys. He's like, if you look at the team that I had this year, look at the tight ends that we had. I think they had 5 different tight ends score touchdowns, or 4 different tight ends score touchdowns. So that was impressive to me, just like how much he uses different guys and how much he, really just uses the whole room, which I liked. So that conversation was just like more of just telling me what he plans to do with us, why he thinks I should stay, and just like the whole plan moving forward and moving into the season. And we had the conversation, it went really well, and I believed in what he was saying, and I believed in his message and just like what he wanted. So I ended up coming back, and I don't regret that at all. I'm super happy that I made the decision to come back.
He's here. He's at Arizona State, and why is he here? He's here because Kenny Dillingham is one of the most likable coaches in college football.
Well, and he brought something up that I feel like we haven't really talked about, because obviously Jalen has dominated so much of the conversation as far as the tight ends and even really just the offense in general is concerned. But like, both of the tight ends could have great seasons. Like Dalton Kincaid wasn't the only tight end on that Utah team, and obviously other guy got hurt. But I'm bringing this up only because it is, I think, in my mind, the best example of 2 terrific tight ends. And obviously, today is not a great day to bring it up, but I think of Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski on the Patriots. Like, both of those guys were unbelievable tight ends, and they both produced on that team. Which is to say that, like, we always talk about Jalen. There's no reason that Messiah, who was, as someone mentioned during draft day or during media day, was the number 1 last year. Like, he came into that season was the number 1. He was the only tight end that really got any kind of run at the beginning of the season. And obviously he's a physical freak. Like, he's a different kind of tight end than Jalen is. So there's going to be different situations in which you use him, like we alluded to earlier. There's no reason that he can't have a terrific year as well.
And Bryce Pierre.
And Bryce Pierre, exactly. And I like he said, you just have to look at the Oregon team last year and see how they use their tight ends. Like, you said that 5 different tight ends caught touchdowns. Well, there's really only 3 here. And there's more. No disrespect to the other guys, but like there's 3 tight ends here. And I mean, shout out Bryce Pierre. Like, we haven't talked about him as being really a part of this picture at all. And the reality is he damn well might be too. So that's really exciting. Like, tight ends are mismatches, especially a guy like Messiah Swinson. He is a mismatch, regardless of where he is. If you can figure out how to use him, it's going to be tough for teams to stop the tight ends in this offense.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that is something that is a selling point, not only in this past class or in recruiting classes moving forward, but you look at all of the position groups on offense: running back, wide receiver, tight end. Yeah. We talk about how deep all of these position rooms are. So you're like, okay, why? Why, if you're a guy in the portal, if you're an Xavier Guillory and you see, hey, they've got Gio Sanders coming back, they have Elijhah Badger, they got Melquan Stovall, why are you here?
Or if you're Messiah Swinson, why are you here?
Yeah, and
the writing was on the wall. We knew damn well by the end of last season that Jalen was the number 1 tight end.
And the easy answer is because Kenny can feed them all.
Yeah,
that's what he can do. Like,
and he
there
has
is
a
no
track
such
record
thing
to prove it.
Exactly,
right? It's not empty promises like you got. I feel like a lot from Herm, if we're being honest. Like, you could say as much as you want, but the reality is these kids are smart enough, especially again now, to know that just because a coach says something doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Yeah. And A, Kenny's different. He's likable and trustworthy. But B, like we said, he has the proof. he's shown that he knows how to use tight ends. And so you weren't taking it wasn't an empty promise by any means. You knew that there was something behind it.
Yeah, most definitely. We do have one final thing to talk about today. Before we do that, guys, want to tell you about our friends at FOCO. If you couldn't tell, this amazing studio has a bunch of Arizona sports merch, and it wouldn't be here without FOCO. Guys, they helped us put all of this together. They've got the best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandom. And guess what? It's baseball season. Did you know that, Shawn?
I did know that.
They've got Aloha shirts, straw hats. Who?
Glass now.
Oh, yes, sir.
8.5 Ks.
Yes, sir.
Over.
Polos, bags, everything you need for a game, guys. FOCO always has our back for Arizona sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by visiting FOCO.com and using code PHNX for all non-presale items. Use that promo code PHNX for 10% off. Shawn, before we get out of here, some crazy news this morning. News that you looked at your phone, and I had to make sure it wasn't like a meme.
Yeah.
Like it was from a legit account.
Yeah, I had to do a double take for sure.
And we're talking about TMZ's report this morning that Bronny James was rushed to the hospital after suffering cardiac arrest during a basketball workout. USC preparing for a similar trip that Arizona State is doing, going to Greece to play basketball. It's just, the story in general is wild. I guess a James family spokesperson told TMZ yesterday while practicing, Bronny James suffered a cardiac arrest. Medical staff was able to treat Bronny and take him to the hospital. He is now in stable condition and no longer in the ICU. The James family obviously asking for respect and privacy during this just wild time. But I mean, you and I talked a little bit about it off camera. It was like you saw that news and you're like, this isn't real.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, it's crazy because these are guys that we talk about in like not an abstract way, but like we always talk about, like, okay, that's LeBron James, and then there's LeBron James Jr. and like, oh, they're like when LeBron James Jr. gets drafted and when they play together and all of this stuff, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this kid almost died. Yeah. Like, and obviously, like anytime you see something about like a young athlete or any kind of young person or any person in general go through something like this, it's different. But when it's someone like Bronny Jr., and I mean, maybe this is not good and it's not fair, but the reality is like Bronny's a kid that a lot of us have like grown up with in a way. Like we have been seeing him for all of LeBron's career, and now, especially us, like he's going to be playing in the Pac-12. Like he's going to USC. He's a very good basketball player with aspirations of making the NBA. It's crazy to have all of that. Just like you wake up and it's like, oh, all of that was almost taken away. And so it definitely, like, man, appreciate these athletes because they are quite literally putting their bodies on the line. And I mean, obviously, we've seen stuff like this happen in basketball before. It happened in Florida a couple years ago.
Sharif O'Neal obviously had his whole heart thing too. Like,
so there's always stuff like appreciate him while you got him, man, because like this shit is fragile.
And I feel like this is another one of those things that you wake up this morning and you read it, you have time to digest it, and you're just like, okay, you're like, it's just like another reminder of like you're not untouchable.
Yeah,
nobody's untouchable.
Well, yeah, that's like that. Like I was saying to you earlier, like this is crazy to happen to any 18-year-old, 17-year-old kid. Yeah. Like let's not forget that he's a teenager still, but also this isn't just any 17-year-old kid. This is a kid who has been training to be an athlete basically his entire life, who is the son of one of like the most physically
the greatest basketball player ever.
Yeah, but like not just that, he's a basketball player who's like never hurt. He's been playing basketball for 20 years and has been a picture of fitness. So like this is a kid who this shit really shouldn't be happening to. And like you said, it really is just like kind of a reminder of how fragile life is, because like this kid is the last kid you would expect something like this to happen to, and it was almost all taken away. And again, this isn't, not that this really matters in the picture of this, but this isn't just like, isn't something that just happened to a kid. Yeah. Like this obviously has, like, we know who his dad is. Pretty important person. Yeah. So like there's a lot that goes into this beyond just obviously him. So obviously happy for the James family that this was more just, not a scare. Obviously he went into cardiac arrest. This is going to be something that changes his career. Like it's something that's going to be monitored for the rest of his career. But ultimately he appears to be okay, and hopefully we'll be able to play basketball again still. But man, it is definitely, like you said, it's one of those things you saw it in the morning. You're like, It almost didn't. It didn't. You couldn't comprehend
this
it.
is not
You're
real.
like, that's not. It's almost like a Mad Lib. Like something bad happened to someone random. That's not like a real thing, but it obviously is, man.
I saw it from Bleacher Report, and the first thing I thought of, like, this is a fake account. Right? I just had to double check, make sure it was the right ad, and I clicked on it, and it was like, oh, this is
real,
legit.
man.
This is legit. Shout out the USC medical staff for, obviously.
Yeah, man. I mean, again, if there's, it's never a good time for something like this to happen.
No.
But if there was a place for it to happen.
Yeah, again, the work that they did, and obviously everybody's super thankful that he is in stable condition. On that note, Shawn, we are done for the day.
Yeah.
So if you enjoyed the content, give us a follow over at PHNX _Sun Devils. You can follow me on social at Anthony _Totri. You could follow the man to my right, or I guess if you're watching, you're on their left, right?
Well, it's always to your right.
To my right, you're to their left,
Your
guys.
left. Screen left.
You can follow him at Shawn _to_pause.
Craving Burrito Express as always. I'm hungry, man. Wrap this shit up.
Yes, sir. You had an easy one. You could have just done wishing Jalen Conyers a happy birthday.
Oh, wishing Jalen Conyers. Well, no, I'm not always doing that. I'm only doing that one day a year.
You're right. The one day that you could have used that and you opted not to do it.
But I'm not always wishing him happy birthday.
On today you are.
No, but every single day I'm craving Burrito Express. I have never once wished him a happy birthday before today, and I will never do it again after today until next year.
Okay, that's fair. I thought you were just like, I'm never gonna.
This is your one birthday, Jalen.
Happy birthday to
Happy
America's
birthday, Corn.
tight end. Check
America's
out the High
Corn.
Point tomorrow.
Yep.
At I want to say 6.
Yep.
Believe I'm not gonna reveal who the guest is.
Yeah, I honestly don't even know.
But I'm gonna say the guest is gonna be a lot of fun.
Okay.
For sure. Again, follow us at PHNX _Sun Devils. You can follow the whole, what do you call
Shindig?
it? There you go. PHNX
always say.
_Sports. Guys, we will see you Wednesday, aka Hump Day. But for now, peace.